Ada froze. The kitchen was dark except for the faint orange glow of the streetlight outside. The hum of the refrigerator filled the silence, but another sound, soft, almost undetectable, sent chills down her spine. A presence. Someone was watching. Then, a whisper. Low. Familiar. I know what you've been doing. Ada spun around, her heart pounding in her chest, her eyes wide, and saw her friend Bisi step out of the darkness, holding up her phone. The screen glowed with a picture, Ada's secret, exposed. Months before that night, Ada's life had changed in the worst possible way. Her husband, Emeka, had been the backbone of their home. He worked long hours as an accountant in a private firm, making sure their little son, Chidi, had everything he needed. But death did not knock before entering. One morning, Emeka left for work, and by evening, Ada received a call from the hospital. A car accident. He hadn't made it. Ada remembered standing at the hospital entrance, the doctor's words floating around her like a bad dream. We tried our best. That was all she heard before her legs gave way. After the burial, reality hit her hard. The rent was due. Chidi's school fees had to be paid. Electricity bills, food, transportation. It was as if life had formed a queue of problems, each one demanding her attention. She tried getting a job. She applied everywhere, banks, supermarkets, offices, but no one was hiring. Desperation settled in like an unwanted guest. Then, one evening, while feeding Chidi, she noticed something. She was still producing breast milk, even though Chidi had already started eating solid food. A strange thought crept into her mind. What if she sold it? At first, she pushed the thought aside. It was crazy, shameful. But as she sat at the table staring at the stack of unpaid bills, the idea kept returning. Some mothers struggled to produce milk. Some babies were allergic to formula. What if she could help them while helping herself? That was the night the decision was made. Starting the business was harder than she thought. First, she had to figure out how to store the milk properly. After researching online, she bought sterilized glass bottles, labels, and a mini freezer. Then came the real challenge, finding customers. She started small. A discreet message in an online mother's forum. Fresh, safe and healthy, breast milk available for babies in need. Completely natural. DM for details. She waited, heart pounding. What if people insulted her? What if they laughed? But then a message came. A desperate mother whose baby rejected every type of formula. The first sale gave her confidence. Word spread quietly among mothers who needed help. Soon, she had a list of regular customers. She set strict rules, only delivering in person, always keeping everything clean and professional. Her fridge was no longer just for food. It became a storage unit for tiny labeled bottles. Money started coming in. For the first time in months, Ada could breathe, but she told no one, not even Bisi. Far away in another part of Nigeria, Bisi sat on a worn-out couch, staring at her husband, Kunle. He was a proud man, but now he looked defeated. Ever since the Chinese construction company he worked for packed up and left the country, he had been jobless. They had used up all their savings, and things were getting worse. "We can't stay here," Bisi finally said. "Lagos has more opportunities. I'll go first and find something. Then you and the kids can join me." Kunle nodded. There was nothing left to argue about. So Bisi packed her bags and returned to the city, where she and Ada had once dreamed about their futures. When she met Ada again, it felt like old times. They laughed, shared stories, and comforted each other about life's struggles. But something about Ada puzzled her. She was a widow with a small child. She wasn't working a high-paying job, yet she always seemed Fine. No signs of struggle. No complaints about money. How? Bisi found a cleaning job at a private school, but the pay was barely enough. Meanwhile, she watched Ada closely. She noticed little things. How Ada would check her phone and leave in the evenings, carrying a small bag. Sometimes, women would stop by Ada's house, staying just a few minutes before leaving with something in their hands. Bisi's curiosity grew. Ada was hiding something. One evening, she decided to follow her. She trailed Ada through the busy streets, making sure to keep her distance. Ada stopped near a quiet road, met a woman, handed her a small package, and walked away. Bisi's mind raced. What was Ada selling? Drugs? Stolen goods? She needed to know the truth. The next day, Bisi returned to Ada's house but didn't knock. Instead, she found a spot near the window and peered inside. What she saw made her mouth drop open. Ada stood at the kitchen counter, carefully pouring a white liquid into small bottles. She labeled each one before placing them inside the freezer. Breast milk. Bisi pulled out her phone, took a few pictures, and stepped back. Ada was selling breast milk, and now Bisi held her secret in her hands. That night, Bisi showed up at Ada's door unannounced. "I know what you're doing," she said, holding up her phone. Ada's face turned pale. "What?" Bisi smirked. "You sell your breast milk. I saw everything." Ada's knees felt weak. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Bisi leaned in. "Don't worry, I won't tell anyone. As long as you share your earnings with me." A cold silence stretched between them. Ada had no choice. If people found out, everything would be ruined. "Fine," she whispered. Ada handed over part of her earnings every week, but it was killing her. The business that once gave her hope now felt like a burden. Bisi, on the other hand, enjoyed the extra money. But as time passed, she began to see Ada differently. Ada wasn't just making money, she was helping people. Guilt crept in. One night, Bisi stood outside Ada's house, watching as her friend sat alone at the table, looking exhausted. She couldn't do this anymore. The next morning, Bisi returned all the money. "I'm sorry," she said. "I was wrong." Ada stared at her, unsure whether to believe her. But instead of kicking Bisi out, Ada did something unexpected. "If you really want to help," she said, "work with me." And so, they built something better. Together, they created a support network for struggling mothers. This time, it wasn't a secret, it was a mission. And through it all, they learned that survival wasn't just about money. It was about trust, forgiveness, and the courage to turn mistakes into something good.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the notification bell so we can bring you more amazing stories.